Welcome to Conversations Live. For more than a decade, we've brought you the best in books, entertainment, celebrity interviews, and current events. When the movers and shakers of the world have something to say to you, they say it to us first. Here's your host, Cyrus Webb.
Welcome back, everyone, to Conversations Live. I'm your host, Cyrus Webb. Glad you all could join us once again. But for our radio audience here in Mississippi at WYAD 94.1 FM and WYADonline.com, we're glad that you all could be with us. Also, tuning in to our friends at iHeartRadio and Amazon Music Podcast, we're glad you all could be with us as well. If you all are someone who loves a great mystery, our next guest is definitely someone you're going to want to pay attention to. We're excited to welcome award-winning journalist and best-selling author Matt Birkbeck to our program. Matt is known for his best-selling books, A Beautiful Child and Finding Sharon. They're now the inspiration for the new Netflix documentary called Girl in the Picture. We're going to talk to Matt not only about what it's been like for him to be able to share these stories, but also to see the response to the new Netflix documentary and the podcast, and of course let you guys know how to stay connected with him as well. Matt, thank you so much for the time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
So, Matt, I want to talk about this journey for you because people know you, of course, for your journalistic work. You've written other books as well. What do you think it is about this story, about Sharon Marshall, that really has resonated with so many people?
It's pretty much what attracted me to the story, what attracted law enforcement to the story, and it was Sharon, and it was her humanity and her ability to survive, and not just survive, but to succeed during a certain point in her life, despite these just absolutely horrific circumstances that she was living under. It was, when the book came out in 2004, A Beautiful Child, it resonated with readers not just in the U.S. but around the world. They all wanted to find out what her true identity was, and we all stuck with the story for so many years. And even when the FBI got involved in it some years later, in the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, it was because they felt this, they just love Sharon. They love, again, her humanity, just everything about her. So that was the glue that kept everyone involved in this story.
And as I mentioned, Matt, people have gotten to know you from your other work as well, even your book you did on Sammy Davis Jr. Is storytelling, is that something you've always known that you were meant to do or wanted to do?
I wanted to be a journalist. I wanted to be an investigative journalist ever since I was about 13, 14 years old. So it took a little while to get going. I had been a reporter for years, but I really didn't. I did my first book off a story I did for People magazine back in 2000 on a fellow by the name of Robert Durst, who some people might be familiar with. And then A Beautiful Child was my second book. And it was just something, for me, I didn't want to just do a kind of cookie cutter, find the facts and tell it, and then just tell a story. I wanted to tell a story. I wanted to read like a novel, and that's what I've been able to do. So for me, the biggest chore in doing this story about Sharon Marshall, when I did the books, and then even when we did the movie now, was how do we tell it in a compelling way, given how twisted it is and all the facts that there and all the twists and turns. So to do it in a book was one thing. So I had a lot of room to do it. Actually, to do it in two books because I did Finding Sharon in 2018. But now to do it in a 90-minute documentary, that was the director is Skye Borgman, and she's just magnificent. She's wonderful, and we were so lucky to have her. And she, we would have these discussions, and I'm like, this has to be a 4-part series. And she's like, I don't know, maybe I think it would be best as a 90-minute movie, which meant cutting so much out, but really focusing on certain parts, and it worked. I'm really happy we did it as a film as opposed to a multi-part series. So, it was, the storytelling was there. The storytelling is this, as it is in the books. You'll see it in the film.
And Matt, now, of course, you have the benefit of so much of course, the way that people now are digesting information, of course, for it to be on a streaming service like Netflix, and I mentioned there's also the podcast. What has that been like for you to see, especially over the decade, of course, since the book came out? What has it been like for you now to have different ways that people can be able to read this story and now to be able to learn about it through this documentary?
It's actually remarkable because the film the film just came out on Wednesday, and it immediately you started seeing the response on social media. I mean, social media. I'm a bit older, so I haven't grabbed onto social media as much as I probably should have. I know my publishers want me to, but just to see the reaction on places like Instagram and on even Twitter, which I'm really not a big fan of, but just to see people from around the world. So yesterday, we learned yesterday morning that the film was the #1 film on the Netflix platform in the U.S., and then last night Netflix emailed us and said, hey, it's the #1 movie in the world. And that is strictly due to social media. That is strictly due to the Internet. Just the speed of information as it gets around, it allows people to talk and communicate with each other, and it's amazing. I just told you earlier that when my book came out, it took months and months and months for people to read it, and they bought into Sharon's story, but it took months to start getting these tips and whatnot, and years. It's a matter of days now, not even days, hours, and to me that's just remarkable.
I should mention to Matt, for our audience that are on Netflix, it actually has a 92% rating by Rotten Tomatoes. And one of the comments, one of the reviews on Netflix, Matt, I wanted to share with our audience because I think it says a lot about what you've been saying and also what people are taking away. One person actually wrote in their review, I did not expect to see something so full of soulfulness, tenderly done. There's an overwhelming sense of her aloneness and despair. To be honest, I was just deeply saddened by watching this show, but I honestly wish I could hug Sharon and let her know that she meant something. When you hear comments like that from those who have watched it now at this point and those who will watch it, do you feel as though, Matt, you all did exactly what you wanted to do with this film?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's how people felt after they read the books, and my great hope was that would be how they would feel after seeing this film. Others have wanted to do this story on film, but they wanted to focus on the perpetrator, which is not what I wanted to do.
Right.
Skye Borgman got on board, and she wanted to focus on Sharon, similar to what I did on the books. In the books, I tell her story, but I kind of don't embellish the real nastiness of the story. It's more about her, and Skye was able to do that in the film. And, she didn't shy away. It's a horrific story, and there are things that we have to tell, but it was done in a way just like as your reviewer said. That's the reaction that people around the world, that's what we're seeing, and that is satisfying to see that, yes, everyone got it. Everyone got what we were looking to do.
Matt, in your line of work, you are, of course, no stranger to having to tell difficult stories. Has Sharon Marshall been hard for you to let go of?
It was hard. It was hard to let go of because of that I've been involved in it, as well as the people. All the people that you see interviewed in the film, I've known them since I started, since I first got into it. I stayed in touch with them. As a matter of fact, there were several people in it that I would talk to often because they were helping on this journey to find her identity. Joe Fitzpatrick, the retired FBI agent, he and we just spoke yesterday. He was a huge help to me. We couldn't get into that part in the film, but Mary Dufresne, who's in there for a few minutes, who's the mother of Megan, and I've known Megan, the daughter. When you first see her, you go, wow. I've known them since 2005. So yeah, it was because we were on this mission to try to find her identity, and it all kept us together, and then allowed us. I'm not going to give anything away, but when you get towards the end of the film, you'll see there's some very special moments, and I was very, very happy to have been a part of that.
And our audience gets to be able to experience it both in print as well as, of course, as we were talking about here through the documentary. Again, everyone, award-winning journalist and best-selling author Matt Birkbeck has been our guest. You all can get the book, A Beautiful Child in Finding Sharon, through our friends at Amazon.com. But the documentary, Girl in the Picture, is now streaming on Netflix. Also, there's the podcast as well you all can take advantage of. Matt, I know you said you're not big on social, but how can our audience stay connected with you?
So I have a website, mattbirkbeck.com. I am on Instagram. It is matt.birkbeck, matt.author, and you can find me there.
All right. Well, Matt, thank you so much for the time. Really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you, and looking forward to speaking with you again.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
More than welcome. And we thank your audience for tuning in to another great segment of Conversations Live. Until next time, I'm your host, Cyrus Webb, saying as always, enjoy your day, enjoy your life, enjoy your world. Thank you all for choosing Conversations Live, and let's go make today amazing. Take care.